It's virtually impossible for a late spring, midweek baseball game between two lousy teams to become one of those indelible, you'll always remember where you were sports moments. However, 15 years ago, the impossible happened, courtesy of Stephen Strasburg. His arrival sent shockwaves throughout Major League Baseball, and his much-anticipated debut was, and remains, one of the most electrifying, unforgettable performances in baseball history. To appreciate the impact of Stephen Strasburg's debut, we first got to establish the context into which he burst onto the scene. As the 2010s approached, the Washington Nationals were languishing, a destitute franchise still spinning their wheels a half-decade after relocating from Montreal. The Expos-turned-Nats didn't manage a winning season in any of their first 5 seasons in Washington, during which time they cycled through 2 GMs and 3 field managers. It was in 2008, though, that the franchise seemingly hit rock bottom, losing 102 games and finishing with the league's worst record. I say seemingly because they went on to lose 103 games the next year. But as fate would have it, that miserable summer of 2008 would end up being a catalyst for a remarkable, years-long blow-up that would one day make the Nationals a perennial powerhouse, and eventually World Series champions. See, on account of their league worst record in 2008, the Nationals landed the first overall pick in the 2009 MLB draft, the first overall selection in franchise history, even going back to the Expos days. And they couldn't have picked a better time to land the first overall pick, because the 2009 draft class was highlighted by a franchise-altering player. Actually, that doesn't do it justice. The 2009 draft class was defined by the most highly touted prospect in baseball history, a flame-throwing right-hander more hyped than Bo Jackson, Brian Taylor, or Ken Griffey Jr. Stephen Strasburg. If you were to build an ace in a lab, Stephen Strasburg is what you'd come up with. 6'4", triple-digit heater, nasty secondary offerings, exceptional command, he had it all. And his dominance in college beggared belief. Across his 3 years at San Diego State, Strasburg crafted a 1.69 ERA while striking out 375 batters in less than 250 innings. As a sophomore, he delivered a historic 23 strikeout masterpiece against Utah. And as a junior, in his last ever home start at San Diego State, Strasburg tossed a 17 strikeout no-hitter against Air Force. Oh, and in between, he pitched for Team USA at the 2008 Olympics, posting a 1.67 ERA as he helped his country to a bronze medal. He was, simply put, a sensation. One scout told Sports Illustrated he was a once-in-a-lifetime talent. Another compared him to Roger Clemens in his heyday. And remember, this was 2009, before seemingly every starter could gas it up into the high 90s. So Strasburg was, in the most complimentary sense, a freak, a pioneer. Ultimately, he was exactly the kind of transformational player that Washington needed. And when draft night arrived in 2009, there was no mystery. Only an unprecedented level of excitement for the Nationals and their new savior. To sign Strasburg, the Nationals laid out $15 million, the most ever committed to a new draftee, with half of it coming in the form of a signing bonus. Before the ink was dry on Strasburg's contract, though, the question around baseball became, how soon will this kid make it to the majors? Could he become the first pitcher drafted in the 21st century to skip the minor leagues entirely? The answer, it turned out, was no. Instead, Strasburg was assigned to AA Harrisburg to begin the 2010 season, and that's where the hype train kicked into overdrive. Because Strasburg ripped through the Eastern League, pitching to a 1.64 ERA with 27 strikeouts in 22 innings before earning a swift promotion to AAA Syracuse. And it was nothing short of a circus every time he took the mound, too. In fact, in his home debut with Harrisburg, the team established a new attendance record, and it was the same deal in AAA. In 6 outings with Syracuse, Strasburg authored a 1.08 ERA while striking out 38 batters in 33 1/3 innings. And his home debut there drew the biggest crowd in the more than century-long history of Syracuse baseball. Everywhere he went, he was nothing short of dominant and a bona fide attraction, appointment viewing. And after only 2 months of minor league seasoning, the Nationals had seen enough. He was ready. The 21-year-old phenom was getting the call, and he'd make his much-anticipated big league debut Tuesday, June 8th against the Pittsburgh Pirates at Nationals Park. Quick aside, the night before Strasburg's debut, the Nationals used the first overall pick in the 2010 draft on a teenage prodigy named Bryce Harper. Few organizations have ever been so fortunate in consecutive years at the draft. Anyway, it's hard to overstate just how excited Washington and the baseball world was for this game, Strasmus as it came to be known. Some fans started lining up for tickets the night before.
I flew out this morning first thing, came out to watch Strasburg make his debut, and then fly back first thing tomorrow morning.
Strasburg is gonna, just kill him with a curveball and a 9-mile-an-hour fastball, and an excellent slider, and a good change. These guys have no idea what's coming.
The official attendance ultimately surpassed 40,000, nearly double the national season average. Meanwhile, the team issued more than 200 media credentials for the game, and MLB Network broadcast the game nationally. And get this, according to SI, at least 4 DC restaurants started selling Strasburgers in honor of his arrival. Yeah, people were stoked. This was going to be a night to remember, and potentially the most momentous game in the then brief history of the Nationals. But Strasburg didn't just live up to the extraordinary hype that night. The rookie turned in one of the most electrifying, indelible performances in MLB history.
There are many ways to measure this, but this game sold out within 2 hours of the announcement that this would be Stephen Strasburg's Major League debut. Strasburg merchandise has long been among the best-selling in the major leagues, and certainly the best-selling of all Nationals items, including Ryan Zimmerman, for a long time, ever since they drafted him #1 in last year's draft. A Strasburg baseball card sold for almost $17,000 on eBay this week. And here's the topper. There's a town named Strasburg. And if he personally goes, they promise to rename the town Stephen Strasburg for a week.
Yeah, I think Bob Costas made it clear just how unprecedented this kid was. And then he went to work. The first batter he faced in the big leagues? Andrew McCutchen, the future NL MVP. Not exactly a soft landing, but despite falling behind 2-0, Strasburg got him. As hard hit as that ball was, that first out allowed Strasburg to take a deep breath, and he locked in from there. He got the next batter to ground out to first on a 99-mile-an-hour heater, and then against number 3 hitter Lastings Millage, Strasburg went up 0-2 and then got real nasty.
John, they come to their feet in anticipation of the 0-2 pitch. And that ends the inning with the changeup.
He was off and running, and his teammate Ryan Zimmerman even did Strasburg a solid by giving him an early lead with a solo shot in the bottom of the first. And then he really started cooking.
13-time Gold Glover. And down goes Jones for the second strikeout put in the book tonight by Strasburg. Breaking ball finishes him for his 3rd consecutive strikeout.
Is so effective with a devastating hook.
Runner going, he can slow up because Strasburg struck out the side.
Yeah, he struck out the side in the second, stranding a 2-out single. He then proceeded to pick up 2 more strikeouts in the following frame. 3 innings into his MLB debut, Strasburg had faced 1 batter over the minimum, he'd allowed 1 hit, and he'd struck out 6. He was cruising. That is, until his second trip through the Pirates lineup. In the top of the 4th, Strasburg allowed each of the first 2 batters he faced to reach on singles, and then endured his first welcome to the big leagues moment.
Right field, well hit. Berardina backing up and looking up, and it's gone.
Yeah, that's what happens when you leave a changeup over the heart of the plate in the majors. Even when your changeup is 90 miles an hour. But was Strasburg gonna let that one bad pitch define his debut and spoil his long-awaited inauguration, if you will? Of course not. After getting the next batter to pop out to end the inning, Strasburg locked in. And I mean locked in. He retired the Pirates in order in the top of the 5th, striking out Ronnie Cedeno to lead off the inning before freezing his counterpart Jeff Karstens to end it. Then, against the top of Pittsburgh's lineup in the 6th, Strasburg turned in his nastiest inning yet.
There's strikeout number 9. So, Strasburg, who was fan 9, will not get the chance to approach the record. But he will keep putting Ks in the scorebook. That's number 10. That is just flat filthy. And he can't stop himself here. They're going to have to throw to first. But if that was Strasburg's last inning of work, he concludes with a flourish, striking out the side, McCutchen, Walker, and Millage in order to take his total to 11.
11 strikeouts through 6. This was just silly. But was he finished? No! Instead, after his teammates smashed a pair of homers in the home half of the frame to restore the Nationals' lead, Strasburg, who was at 81 pitches, came out for 1 more frame. And man, was it legendary.
More or less than dictating what it should be.
On the breaking ball, Jones goes down swinging, and that is 12. And it's also 5 in a row. That was the 90th pitch. The 91st is his 13th strikeout. And the 0-2. He strikes out the side for the second straight inning. He brings his total to 14.
Wow. I mean, wow. He actually closed out his debut by striking out the side in order for a second consecutive inning. Actually, Strasburg struck out each of the last 7 batters he faced going back to the 5th inning, bringing his total for the night to 14. 14 strikeouts. One shy of the record shared by J.R. Richard and Carl Spooner for the most Ks in a Major League debut. And he didn't walk a single batter in the game, a resounding 5-2 Nationals victory. To that point in the 21st century, less than a dozen other starters had ever had a game with 14 or more strikeouts and 0 walks. An exclusive club highlighted by Hall of Famers like Pedro Martinez and Randy Johnson. It was mind-boggling. Somehow, this player who arrived with more hoopla and under more pressure than any player before him looked even better than advertised. And suddenly, for the first time in their brief existence, the Nationals had a reason for optimism, a foundation upon which to build. As such, it was nothing short of poetic that it was a 30-year-old Strasburg who was named World Series MVP when the Nationals won their first championship in 2019. But Strasburg's performance that June evening in 2010 wasn't just a turning point in Nationals history or a fitting opening chapter for a dominant, albeit injury-plagued career. It was history unto itself. Case in point, the Hall of Fame asked for Strasburg's hat from his first game, which immediately set a new, impossible standard for MLB debuts. Don't get me wrong, plenty of highly touted prospects turned in memorable debuts over the ensuing decade and a half, from JP Arancibia to Freddie Peralta to Jason Dominguez. But none of those performances had the electricity, the theater, and the pure magic of Strasburg, when the most hyped prospect ever delivered the most jaw-dropping debut baseball has ever seen. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button.